Hey everyone, Mike here. Today we're going to be installing the new Tesla style head unit for my Interceptor. Maybe you saw the unboxing video I did. So we're going to install it today and see how it goes.
The first thing you need to do is remove the side trim. Use a plastic tool and just work your way under it. My center console was actually in front of the bottom of these trim panels, making it a little bit more difficult. The most difficult point to remove is a clip right under the widest point of the trim, but I eventually got it out. There we go. That just pops out. All these just pop out. Not a big deal. It's this weird thing that goes in here. That's what really provides a lot of the difficulty. Once you have the trims removed, you can get access to the 4 9/32 screws behind there. If you remove them, then the panel will just pop straight out. Behind the panel, there's one connector, which is easy to remove, and then you can place the panel aside. Once you remove the panel, you'll see 4 screws holding in the display. Remove the 4 screws and the display will come off. There's a connector on the back that I've never seen before. You push a tab in on the top of the connector and then rotate the lever around and the connector will come off. There are 4 additional screws that hold the main unit in. Once you remove the 4 screws, you can remove the main unit and unclip the 2 connectors on the back. Now that we have everything off, I wanted to test fit everything before I went any farther. The fit was okay. It didn't kind of hold in like the OEM panel did. And also the vent units did not come with the new unit. You have to remove them from the old panel and put them on the new panel. And the vent units are actually hold the panel in to some extent. So once I was happy that it was all going to fit together, next was the connections. This is where it was a little difficult. The unit came with no instructions, no videos, no nothing. There was not immediately clear what needed to be connected to what. So some time was spent going through each connector and seeing what fit to where. So we have a USB connector. Let's just go through them, I guess. All right, this is USB 2 and USB 1. Oh no. Yes. No. The next one is this multicolored. Whoa, there's 2 of them here. It's actually camera out from the OEM camera because that was my concern. So then we got our audio, I guess. These are all our video inputs. I'm just gonna plug. By the way, this is the OBD2. Kuga wheel key. I don't know what that means. Yeah, I don't have a clue on that one. Reverse. OBD2. Oh, there's our OBD2 connector. Okay. So plug in vehicle USB power supply. I don't have a USB power supply. So just plug in here. Alright, well, I think I'm just going to try it at this point and see how far we get. Eventually I got everything connected that fit together and went for it and just powered it up because there was nothing much more I could do. What do you know? It works. I played with it for a while, but I figured I'd better get back to installing it. The next thing to do was to mount the main unit. This was very frustrating. The parts that came with it were basically just 2 tabs. There were multiple locations you could screw them to, but one of the tabs didn't line up with any of the screws. And no matter what position I put them in and tried to mount them into the car, it always got in the way of the display or didn't fit right or the holes didn't line up. Eventually the holes were stripped out. Maybe they sent me the wrong screws. Eventually, I just put it into the dash and said forget it, and I closed it up, putting the panel in and put the trims back on.
It's actually been a couple of weeks since I shot the last video. I've been using this head unit for a while, and I have decided to return it. I want to give you an overview of the multitude of problems that are with this unit. So here we go.
So after playing with this head unit for a while, I discovered all kinds of issues with it, which ultimately led me to returning it. When you boot it up, it shows you this white explorer that you can't change. It also shows you speed and RPM gauges, which work off the OBD2 port, and they do work. One of the most obvious problems was the rear camera. There's a box that connects to the OBD2 port, and there's several outputs on that box, including the reverse signal, to let the radio know when you're in reverse. The problem is that the box output put out a high when it was not in reverse and a low when it was in reverse. And the radio had a reverse input expecting exactly opposite of that. So what ended up happening is that the reverse camera would be shown all the time, except for when you're in reverse, which is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. So I ended up connecting the reverse camera to the aux input. The vehicle would only turn on the reverse camera when it was in reverse, so when you're driving down the road, you wouldn't see it normally. But this also meant that you had to be in the aux mode when you put it in reverse, or you wouldn't see the camera. Problem number 2 was the Wi-Fi kept turning off. No matter what I did, the Wi-Fi would always turn off after you turn the car off. This wasn't a huge deal. It's not like I left my hotspot on all the time, but it was just kind of annoying. It would have been nice to keep it on all the time. I tried going to the settings and more settings and Wi-Fi and set the settings to not turn off the Wi-Fi while sleeping, but that didn't help. Problem number 3 was the AC controls. The OEM panel has all the physical controls, and those are all gone now, so they moved the AC controls to a dedicated area on the bottom of the screen. These controls are not very responsive. They were very slow. You'd have to wait half a second in between each step of the fan. I really enjoyed having that knob to be able to just adjust it very quickly. But the big problem is that if you had the heat on and then you turn the car off, the next time you start the car, sometimes it would just blow cold until you made at least one temperature adjustment, even 1 degree. Then all of a sudden it would remember and say, oh, I need to be at this temperature, and jump to that temperature, and they would start blowing warm again. Problem number 4 was the volume resetting to 10 all the time. Yes, every time you start the car, the volume would be at 10. Now, that's not full volume, but it was loud enough that it was very annoying. I mean, what car do you know that resets the volume every time you start it? Fortunately, this is actually one problem I fixed. I installed a launcher, and that allowed me to see all the apps installed in Android. And one of those apps was this configuration application. And in there was tons and tons of settings. One of the settings in there was to not reset the volume after every start. And so that actually, I was able to fix that one problem. Problem number 5 is the music app. The music app is super basic. It didn't even have a proper shuffle all, which is what I typically use. I just dump all my music on there and then shuffle everything. I personally like the VLC player, so I installed it. You can see it takes a long time for the launcher to come up. But if you run the VLC player, it works fine. You can hit play. It starts playing your music. The issue is if you want to do anything else. As soon as you leave that app, it'll keep playing in the background for about 30 seconds, and then it just stops. It seems there's something with this unit that does not allow background apps, because we have other problems. Because as you'll see in some of the next problems, some of the other apps don't work either. Problem number 6 was that Google Maps was really slow. The voice prompts from the map for the directions, the audio level was very, very low, and no matter what I did, I couldn't figure out how to get it turned up. I even installed volume applications, and no matter what I did, I couldn't get the volume to come up. And problem number 7 was the brightness. It was just way too bright. There are adjustments for daytime and nighttime brightness. There wasn't much difference between the two. It is auto dimming, so when you turn the lights on, it would dim to the lower setting. But even at the lowest setting, it was still very bright and would light up the whole interior. I installed this program I've used before called Lux, and it allows you to lower the brightness below 0 by actually manipulating the screen pixel brightness, not the backlight brightness. When you run it, you can see that I can lower it very dim, but the system controls at the top and the bottom do not dim. It would have been okay. The bigger problem is that it is a background app, and after 30 seconds, it stops running. So the brightness comes back up, and you can't do anything about it. So there you have it. Like I said, I ended up taking this out and returning it. I did lose a little bit of money in shipping and return fees, but it was not worth the $700 I paid for it. There was just too many bugs. So I ended up just putting everything back. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and if you have any suggestions for other videos, let me know. I know this one was a long time in the making. I do plan to do a update video. The vehicle now has 45,000 miles on it, and I will be doing update video on that, and also an update on the little teaser I had put out. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.